Hi there, I'm Haruka, and I've been on vocal rest the entire day until just now. A while ago, I just decided to scroll through the ecchi tag on my anime list because I enjoy watching some anime titties before I go to sleep every night. It empties my mind for sleep. Anyway, I also checked the sports tag because I just wanted to see what else I could make a video about, and I found one anime that was in both categories. So obviously I'm going to watch it. This anime was an OVA. It was only 3 episodes of around 12 minutes each. Easy to watch, right? Wrong. It was actually so terrible that I had to rethink the bottom of my own Mal profile to figure out how it would fit in. I also checked the reviews and they all pretty much unanimously agreed that the OVA was trash and I needed to read the manga. And while I don't normally give in to people saying just read the manga, I like to make people angry, it was in such a cross-section of my interests that I needed to know what the manga was like. So I read it, and I really enjoyed it. It had the same sort of trash vibes as Domekano, but definitely not on that level. It was definitely more trash than drama, but the spice had plenty of kick to it, and you can see there was a lot of heart in there. So I'm going to do something slightly different to my usual plan of dumpster diving and actually just compare the adaptation of this manga to the OVA, because there has to be a reason why the studio fucked up so horribly. Oh, yeah, the title. The title of this series is Hantsu X Trash. That is not a joke, the word trash is in the title. And the general vibe I could tell from the poster is that it's about water polo and titties. So let's move in the same way that I did and first check out the OVA. This is gonna be a lot of random spoilers that aren't too specific, but you should probably be warned. I don't usually worry about that. I don't know how to properly explain this OVA, and I'm not sure if the studio can explain it either. Although, just saying, the studio does have a lot of explaining to do for its other series they've done. Hood's Entertainment's and other notable works include Nazuno Kanojo X, a love story between a girl who drools too much and the boy who drinks that drool, Seikon no Quasar, an action series revolving around a guy who gets powers by drinking breast milk, and Manyu Hikensho, a samurai anime about a world where your power and influence is decided by the size of your boobs, and someone's got a weapon that can make your boobs smaller. I'm absolutely going to watch the last one. I did watch that last one, and there's nothing any of you can do to stop me. Anyway, let's get into the anime that I'm actually talking about. The first episode is basically the main character getting punched in the face for accidentally saying pervy stuff and his various dream sequences where he attempts to fuck some of the girls. This goes on for some time until a teacher shows up and actually starts sexually harassing him. Then he bonks his head again, has another dream, and then gets a talk with a girl about how hard he's working. The second episode, the group of boys are playing water polo and get their first ever win because they made a deal with the teacher that they could touch her boobs if they won. And they did! The main guy gets knocked out for no reason again, but it's the girl this time that has the sexual fantasy, I guess. Anyway, the teacher's still handing out free titty grabs while the main guy imagines a Yuri scene. And then once the teacher's finished up with the other boys, she goes back to the main character to try to fuck him again. For the third and final episode, there's a training camp, and the boys are attempting to get the girls' nipple colors categorized. They peek in on the girls' bath, there's some Yuri, and then the boys get caught. They go through a bunch of other plans for seeing nipples, and one of the boys commits an actual violent felony when he physically attacks and tries to strip one of the girls he saw in the bath the other day, and then a girl who almost drowns decides to show the main character her boobs. I have no clue what just happened. There is no story. There were a lot of titties, which was nice. Yuri scenes were a bit random, but I have no clue who any of these characters are except for the teacher, who is clearly a predator. The vibe of the OVA is that the main character spends most of the story unconscious, fantasizing about these girls, which isn't much of a plot. Also, the art confused me and was really inconsistent, but that might be something the mangaka just does. So actually, it's not. So as I said before, the title of this series is Hantsu X Trash, but the English translation of the title is Sexy and Stupid Water Polo Comedy, which is the absolute best description of the manga that I can give. It is exactly what it says it is, and it's written by Hiyoko Kobayashi, who seems to have just decided to spend his career making dumb ecchi shit, which absolutely makes him my hero. Alright, let's introduce our characters. First up is our main boy, Yohei Hamaji. Our guy here is just a normal, horny first-year high school student with nothing going on in his life until he decides to join water polo. He's convinced to join because he was told there would be nip slips galore. While pretty much all the other boys in the water polo club are horny monsters that need to be placed in jail, Hamaji is the only one that actually seems to have a conscience about all this. Plus, he instantly fell in love with Hagiwara the moment he saw her. Speaking of which, we have our main waifu, Chisato Hagiwara. Hagiwara is a second year in the water polo club and a legitimately solid player. She's not the best, but she works hard and stays focused. She's got the vibes of a solid role player, the type of person on a basketball team who starts just to compliment the actual star or just a good sixth man. She's also very cute and has a lot of guys who are into her, people she rejects almost automatically. She's married to the game. And while the girls in general care more about getting better than the boys, Hagiwara cares absolutely the most because water polo isn't popular, and she just loves playing it so much. If less people play, then she gets less opportunities to continue playing. Anyway, here's the side bitch, Maki Hayami. That's a bit mean, but it's kind of what she is in this manga. I still love her. She's also a first year who starts the show as a track and field member, but she quits because she felt too uncomfortable with guys constantly seeing her boobs bounce around. She joins the water polo club not only because the water kind of gives her boobs some cover and lessens the weight she's got to carry, but also she has a crush on one of the boys. That's right, she develops a real crush on Hamaji at some point, and I'll talk about that later. Then we get the Yuri fan service, Mai Shinozaki. Shinozaki is a second year who's more important early on in the story than later in the story, but she's very clearly gay. Or at least, she explains why she does not associate with boys. There is some trauma behind it. She's really into Hagiwara, who accepts her only because she's also a girl, so she doesn't see a problem with having her around. Although later in the manga, Shinozaki is important as a sort of mouthpiece for the audience, pushing others into action when they slow down. Someone I need to mention is the teacher, Manami Miyoshi. So Miyoshi isn't actually a teacher, she's barely even a TA, which means she's also not the coach, who is an entirely different character that isn't even mentioned in the OVA. Miyoshi is an alumni who's been studying to become a teacher and also happens to be a former star of the water polo team that she's been coming by to help out. She's also a ravenous virgin killer who takes a special interest in Hamaji, not because of Hamaji's clear hentai protagonist energy apparently, but because she knows that he's in love with the girl and is refusing to give in to her, which makes her even more interested in toying with him. Finally, I gotta mention the alpha, Nakajima, is the only name we are given for him. This big ugly bastard looks 50, but is only a second year at the beginning of the manga. You should know who this guy is because he creates most of the conflict in the manga by just being incredibly horny and forces Hamaji into some pretty borderline illegal operations to try to see the girls naked. Like, he is just too horny that he causes so many problems for everyone, and he is the ringleader for some of the worst moments in the manga and causes most of the miscommunication between the actual serious characters. Now, the main plot, I'm not going to give all of it. I'm just going to get to a point where I think you'll understand my feelings by the way I talk about it. So, as I said, Hamaji is a bored high school student until Nakajima unceremoniously coerces him into joining the water polo team by saying he'll be surrounded by scantily clad women. Which, I mean, it only really works because Hamaji instantly falls in love with Hagiwara, and he finds out he's not bad at water polo. He's got a really good jump that helps him get better leverage for shots. It seems like a special shonen move, and he tries to treat it as such, but it's just a really normal thing that he has a natural ability with some extra leg strength. In fact, his interest in Hagiwara turns into an interest in getting better at water polo, which is something that gets Hagiwara interested in hanging around him, because she enjoys showing others the way of water polo. With the main story established, we meet the other characters. Miyoshi shows up and instantly marks Hamaji as her prey. Shinozaki shows up with the same intentions as Hamaji, but Hagiwara makes them work together to get better because both of them suck at water polo still. This actually works as a bit of bonding for the two because Hamaji realizes that they're both the same. I mean, he jerked off in the boys' room one time, he caught her jerking off in the girls' locker room, possibly wearing Hagiwara's underwear. Truly a bonding experience. And when she asks Hagiwara out, she's rejected, but only because Hagiwara is still married to the game. Then there's a side story where the boys help one of their own get over being rejected by one of the girls by trying to bring Hayami in as a sort of pinch hitter, but she's still at track and field and is very confused by the nipple color chart. She won't get involved for a while. Also, Hagiwara is starting to believe that she might actually have feelings towards Hamaji, and then Hamaji really biffs it. Like, I'm not going to describe how he does it, you have to read for yourself, but it's so bad that he stops going to the club. But that's when Hayami enters and joins the water polo club while bringing him back in. She confesses to him, they start dating, and that's where I'm going to leave you. He's dating Hayami, who loves him, but he still has feelings for Hagiwara, who is starting to lose her grip on the game because of her emotions around Hamaji. So let's talk about two themes that I think make this manga. First, ecchi propels the plot. It's horny, but instead of it just existing, the horny actually creates conflict. Like, there's plenty of random panty shots, but the real ecchi is when we're seeing bare titties. And when the titties are out, honestly, the plot moves forward because the conflict is created by miscalculated or misinterpreted actions involving each character's general horniness. That's what makes a good ecchi. Also, what makes a good ecchi is ecchi actions having ecchi consequences. Oops, you accidentally assaulted a girl. In an ecchi that doesn't care about the plot, the guy gets slapped and everyone moves on. But in something like Hansu X Trash, the girl isn't just going to kick your ass, she's going to use everything in her power to make sure you are hurt emotionally because you deserve it for assaulting her. Nakajima and the boys might keep trying shitty perverted things, but eventually the coach and a couple key guys start stepping in front and asking why they need to do any of this. Second, love overcoming lust. There is an amazing side story between two characters, Shinoda and Amamiya. What starts as just a guy being horny turns into the guy actually realizing he truly loves the girl, not just her rocket boobs. And there's also something to be said about Miyoshi's interest in Hamaji. What draws Miyoshi's interest in Hamaji is that he is clearly in love and she wants to push him and test him. Hamaji is tempted by lust but continues to be driven by love, even when he's conflicted on that front. In fact, the best character-driven moments are based around a character turning down immediate physical satisfaction in favor of self-sacrifice for the person they love. Now, how does the OVA convey none of this? Well, first of all, there's no adherence to the plot in the OVA. It's a series of boobs flying at you on your screen. There's no real subtlety in the way the characters are presented, and the girls aren't really anything more than vehicles carrying around some titties to look at. And it's not that they're not active in the story, the boys are also not active in the story. There is no story. It feels like the characters are stripped of their identity as a whole. There's no real explanation of Hamaji and Hayami's relationship in the OVA, mostly because the OVA seems to take place all the time at once. Hagiwara has no actual personality, same with Shinozaki. Two really cool characters being reduced to just tits on a screen. And while there's not much of a difference between the boys in the OVA and the boys in the manga, that's an issue on its own. Some of these guys actually develop into people and gain redeeming qualities. Like, Shinoda's attempted assault in the OVA is literally illegal, and he isn't even the character who does that in the manga. But someone does attempt something similar. He's just not the one to do it. In fact, as stated, Shinoda's intentions for Amamiya start impure but turn pure by the end. Miyoshi is entirely accurate, no notes. Although she's not the coach, and the coach is a fun character on his own. Maybe they didn't know how to animate mustaches. Then there's the art. One of the main things that an ecchi needs to have going for it is good-looking art. And in the manga, the girls are hot, if a bit similar to each other, and the guys are a bit ugly because the manga develops that sort of detail. And then there's this, where basically the only thing worth looking at is the girl's body from the neck down to the knees, and that's it. The resting faces in the animation look almost like that one Naruto horse face meme. Finally, if you want to make a hentai, just make a goddamn hentai. Straight up, it feels like they wanted to make a hentai instead of actually trying to adapt the manga into an OVA. Like, don't advertise this as an actual adaptation if you're not going to care enough to give some proper characterization to this interesting manga. There's not even the excuse of length, because I understood more about Oshiete Gelko-chan in one 7-minute episode than I did in the entire total half-hour of content across the Hansu X Trash OVA. There's no shame in making a hentai in my eyes, but there is shame in trying to pass off what is clearly a softcore Studio Milky production as just a normal ecchi anime. In the end, this is just another manga damaged by the system that dissuades studios from making straight ecchi, instead settling for ecchi fantasy or isekai. Actually, no, I'm just saying that because I really need to finish writing the script and start recording it. But the Hansu X Trash OVA came out in 2015, the same year as such ecchi classics as Bikini Warriors, Monster Musume, and even Valkyrie Drive Mermaid. There's also Prison School, but I already talked about that one. I hope you at least check out the manga because I had a lot of fun reading it, and there's just something about a manga that actually gets you invested in characters you weren't expecting to be invested in. Like, subscribe, join the Patreon, and share this video with your older sister. Tell her I said hi.